Hey guys, just wanted to record this tutorial on the Master of Reality, or rather Master of Nostalgia project that we discussed in class and that is currently in process. Um, I thought it'd be a good idea for me to just kind of start from square one and move through this project so that you have a good idea of how to proceed. And so the idea of the project is to sort of riff off of this Black Sabbath Master of Reality um, LP cover. Black Sabbath, they're a metal band. They're sort of the go-to. They're kind of like they're the metal, as far as the genre of music, like the metal uh, sort of go-to strand of DNA that a lot of other rock and roll metal bands really admire. But the other thing is that this cover is just so beautiful. It's so simple, and it also has this real strong typography. It's organic, it's fluid, it's hand drawn, it's not mechanical. The way it sits in the frame, I think, is really interesting. The 12 by 12 inch vinyl frame. I mean, there are a number of reasons why I really admire this record. Um, and so we're going to sort of do a take on it. We're going to playfully kind of, create a t-shirt out of this, but using typography. This is basically a typography assignment or project rather. And it's also an assignment or project where you kind of look to the design past or something or an object that is sort of in the collective consciousness of society. And obviously, this, you've probably maybe seen this record cover. Maybe you saw it and you weren't sure what it was, but it's something that kind of reoccurs occasionally. It pops up. It's not just the music, it's the design, it's that purple, it's the typography. Um, and so you're going to be doing that with this project. This is also a form storming project. And so I believe, yep, there it is right there. So in my sketchbook, I kind of went through an exercise. And by the way, I'm going to take this file and I'm going to put it in my assets folder. And just kind of as a reminder, creating a project folder, and within that project folder, you're going to have an assets folder, and within that assets folder, you can just put stuff. So if we click on this, currently I've already created another folder in here for blank shirts because at some point we do want to put this graphic on a shirt. And so I spent some time this morning just kind of looking online, looking for some good images of people wearing blank shirts where we can kind of mock this up. That being said, the other thing that I did this morning was I was kind of doing some form storming myself, where I was kind of playfully thinking about, this Master of Reality t-shirt and how it can be sort of transformed into something that I really, into something that's a little bit more in tune with my thinking. And I'm an artist, I'm a designer. And I think about, a lot of these artists here, but, the same way there are different genres of metal, there are different art movements and quote unquote genres of art. And so I thought, okay, master of realism, master of cubism, master of fauvism, master of surrealism. I didn't write it out, but master of constructivism, master of Dada or Dadaism. And then there are these artists, it's not Black Sabbath, but it's Gustave Courbet, Edouard Manet, Thomas Eakins, Pablo Picasso, so you can kind of see we can kind of do this sort of wordplay, sort of inversion, where we can riff off this original Black Sabbath LP design, but we can sort of make it possibly into a successful t-shirt. And just imagine a circumstance, you're walking down the street and you see a shirt that's kind of in the style of Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, but instead maybe it says Edouard Manet, Master of Realism, or Pablo Picasso, Master of Cubism, or let's see, El Lissitzky, Master of Constructivism. And I just think the idea is really fun to me. And of course, you can branch this out to anything. Even like within the metal genre, you could say the idea that I was discussing with a student, Kirk Hammett, the guitarist from Metallica, Kirk Hammett, master of metal, right? So, you have to sort of go into your sketchbook and do some form storming and do some thinking and planning so that you know what direction you're going. And that's exactly what I've done here. And I haven't chosen which artists I'm going to be using, but I kind of had to go through this step in order to sort of have a path in front of me. Okay. That's what this is about. Um, but before I start doing that, I actually just need to do some I need to get an image of the Black Sabbath Master of Reality cover. I need to download a relatively good quality version of that and put it into my assets folder. So I'm interested in getting a large sized version of this record. Looks like this one, it's pretty good, but that already looks vectorized, which I'm a little bit suspicious of. Um, so let's see. I wonder if there's another one that I can grab. Hmm. Getting there. And it's interesting because there's also the Warner Brothers logo up in the top left-hand corner. I think that kind of indicates that this is a good version, or that we would have found a good version. Sometimes finding the right image is tough, but obviously we don't want one that's low quality or one that's sort of askew like this. That's not going to work. It needs to be straight on. This is not the right color at all, but somehow I feel like the typography is good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this one as a layout for the template. Okay. Um, and it's also perfectly square. Looks pretty good to me. You can even see it's 1200 by 1200 here. So I'm going to right click that one and I'm going to call it reality template and throw that in my assets folder. I also need the proper purple. And you know what? I'm going to trust that Vinyl Me Please did a good job of finding the correct purple. So I'm going to download this one as too. Don't download this one too. Okay. So yeah, just throw that right there. Let's call it something sensible. Reality purple. Okay, I really don't need the internet to my knowledge much anymore. Close out these folders. And now I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator. And an LP is 12 by 12 inches. But I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to make this for whatever reason 10 by 10 inches. It's the aspect ratio, of course, is the same, so it doesn't really matter. But in a way, I'm kind of doing that to show you that, you could have a 12 by 12 inch artboard. You can have a 16 by 16 inch artboard or a 10 by 10 inch artboard. And you're still going to be able to accomplish something that's relatively comparable, okay? And successful for the project. So project 1.1. Okay, and I'm going to call this master dash reality. And I need to change the width up here to 10 by 10. I only want one artboard. I think CMYK is going to work fine. And we definitely want 300 PPI or DPI. So when we're ready, we hit the blue button for create. And now we've got our artboard. The next thing I would suggest that you do is you download, or excuse me, save your project file in your project folder. So now hit Command S and hit save on your computer once, maybe twice. It kind of depends on your machine. It's already called Project One, but you do need to navigate to your home base for your project folder so that you can keep all of your assets and all of your good stuff together in one location. Okay. There it is. And I'm not going to put that in the assets folder. I'm going to put that next door because this is a main, I mean, this is a main, it's basically the result of these assets. And so I want it one step above the assets folder, if that makes sense. So hit OK. And so now at any time during the project, we can just simply hit Command S and our progress can be saved. And we don't have to worry about losing any work. Okay. So, and again, you can zoom out, zoom in, hit Command 0 so that you can see things full screen. I think some of these tools have probably been discussed with you in class, but you'll see me using some pretty basic things with this project. Usually I like my students to be in Essentials Classic mode. And if your screen doesn't look like this, you can come down here and you can click Reset Essentials Classic. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to click 2 times into this layer and I'm going to say reality. Call it reality. Okay, because I want to place my Black Sabbath template there. I'm come up here to File, Place. It's basically going to take me to my project folder. And if it doesn't take you directly there, then of course you need to navigate there because the image or file that you need, remember we downloaded it earlier and we put it in this folder. Okay, and here's our template right there. That's the one that we need. Okay, and after you click your image, then it's gonna pop up this sort of thumbnail, and essentially Illustrator is asking where do you want it? So you can click anywhere at this point. Whoops, I don't know how that happened. Strange. I did a tutorial on this earlier actually to get rid of that 3D thing. But if you want to get rid of it, you have to come over here, click Perspective Grid, and then click that X there, and then it'll go away. So that was a strange thing that just happened. We definitely do not need that for this project. So using the black arrow tool, which is the selection tool, you can drag this into the top left-hand corner, and you should see your smart guides kind of letting you know that you've reached the edge of that corner. Then you can zoom out, come down here if necessary. I mean, it kind of depends on the file that you've chosen, but it looks like this file is much bigger than the artboard, so we need to squinch it down. Holding Shift with your left pinky, just kind of bring this in, because if you don't hold Shift, then you'll distort things. That's not good. Hit Command Z for undo. Now, again, I'm holding Shift with my pinky. I'm going to bring that in so it snaps with the artboard. So now, basically, this image is talking perfectly with that artboard, if you guys can see that. Okay. Now, I'm going to lock that layer because I don't want it to move. So right next to the eyeball, click the lock icon and then hit Command 0, and that'll bring things completely on the screen so that you can see everything clearly. Now hit Command S. Easy peasy, right? Okay, so now we're going to just basically use the pen tool to start etching out these letter forms, okay? And these letter forms are really nice. They're kind of, they're organic. And so, that's the first thing I would do, just to kind of get a hang of the tool that you're going to be using. Of course, you're going to be making your own letter forms at some point. And so, and you kind of want them to be in the style of Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, right? That being said, the pen tool is what we're going to be using for this project quite a bit. And we can't do anything on this layer because it's locked. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come down here, click the plus sign where it says create new layer. And then we're going to call this, let's just call it reality. dash text. Okay, that's pretty easy. So now we can kind of make these shapes to mimic the text. Obviously, that's not what we want, but just kind of illustrating that we can use the pen tool at this point. Go ahead and select that, hit delete to remove it or get rid of it. We can zoom in to this B up here. Okay. And actually, I think that the curvature tool is going to work really well for this project. Okay. And so if I'm not mistaken, we can kind of use the curvature tool for a little while, and then we can cruise over to, no, actually, we can't just kind of seamlessly go between the two. That's too bad. I wonder. Okay, we can do it that way. Go from the regular pen tool. Okay, so you can, for some reason it cuts you off, so you just have to make sure to kind of finish the object. So you can kind of toggle between the curvature pen tool and the regular pen tool. Okay. I think that's going to be pretty useful for this project because you want to do some curvature work here, but when you get here, you might want to use the pen tool, the regular pen tool for a moment, and then kind of find your way out. So I mean, this project is an opportunity to gain some familiarity with the difference between these two pen tools. Okay. All right. So I'm going to kind of start in that corner and just kind of start building these letter forms. Now I'm going to kind of switch to the one thing I should have done, honestly, I should have turned off that white fill because that's going to be distracting. I'll do that with the next letter form, okay? And the real truth is, this is a tight corner. I could switch gears, but I'm just going to keep using the curvature tool. When you do have these tight sort of moves, what you can do is just kind of make the anchor point. See, this is why it's a little bit of an issue to have that white fill while you're doing this kind of thing, because now we can't see where to make these marks. I mean, a solution to that would be to reduce your opacity so that you can see. But the real truth is the best way to do this is just to not have a fill for a bit. So actually, I'm going to back up, learn from that mistake. I got rid of the fill with this red line, and I think just this black stroke will do just fine for this project. I also want to bring the opacity back up. Another thing I want to do, which is kind of helpful, sometimes what you can do is you can see now I've selected the Black Sabbath reality layer again, or the LP cover, and I'm going to reduce that opacity to 75, and I'm doing that up here. The reason I'm doing that is just so I can sort of see my mark making on top of the LP cover a little bit more clearly. Okay, that's all. But I have to relock the layer when I'm done, and then I have to reselect this layer so I can put this letter form information on the correct layer. Okay, so now I'm gonna start again. I think this will work better, and you can zoom in and really kind of dive into these details. By the way, I mean, this is really just an exercise to gain some familiarity with the tool because, I mean, for our t-shirt, we're actually going to be remaking these letter forms. So we're not there yet, but we'll get there. Okay. The Richard tool is pretty handy though. Look at that. It's nice. When we get here, you might want to sort of make an extra anchor point a little bit close by, a little closer. Oops. There we go. Because we don't want to distort this too much. But that looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, we need this sort of exclusion in here. So very quickly, I'm going to make this shape. Whoops. I'm using the regular pen tool. I want to use the curvature tool. I guess, really, I've just kind of discovered that the curvature tool, it's less choppy, of course. It's just nice. Works. Okay. And you can kind of see how I'm toggling between tools. I just hit Z for the zoom so I can kind of move around. I could have used the hand tool to grab some things and move them around, but now I need to go back to the pen tool, or the curvature tool rather, to make this real fast shape. Back up out of there. And so now if I were to come back, I can give that object the fill back. And it's pretty interesting because you can see that these other paths that I created, they're still on top. They're on top because I created them after I created that object. So that this was the first object I made, the second, and then the third. But now I want to use the Pathfinder tool to remove this part in the B and that part in the B. And so I'm going to come up here to Window, Pathfinder. Okay, and we're going to be using not Unite, but minus the front. Remember, these guys are sitting in front of the primary B shape, okay? So in order for this to work, though, we need to select two objects, one and then two. You can do that by just dragging and selecting those two. We don't want to select all three right now, just two. So drag to select two, and then simply click minus front. Drag to select two, then click on the Pathfinder tool minus front. And so now we've got that beautiful Black Sabbath B. We've kind of got an issue because it's not the right purple. And remember, we downloaded a real nice LP cover with the proper purple that we think that we're going to need. And so I'm going to import that image temporarily so that I can use the eyedropper tool to grab that purple. So File, Place. There it is. There's that purple that we want. Gonna put that over here for a moment. Select the B. Hit I on your keyboard. And then sample your purple. And then click away. We don't need this anymore. We're done. Although while we have that in, I want to sample this sort of off black gray, just in case. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, this is Vinyl Me Please. This is the color that they suggested that we have or use for this project. So what I did was I just created a square, and I'm gonna it's almost kind of like painting. I'm just gonna, borrow that gray over here, and so I can have it living here on the side when I need it. All right. Now I can select this and just click delete or hit delete on my keyboard. Okay, and now it's gone. So now I've got this beautiful, yeah, we've started the process basically. There's our purple, there's our off black if we decide to use that. And then the nice thing about this process or the layers is that you can kind of make these layers come back and go away. But that's the first letter form that we need to make here. Okay. So the other thing I want to do is I want to hit Command S and save while I can. All right. Because you got to save periodically. I have had experiences with Adobe software where essentially every once in a while, the software could or might possibly crash, especially when the project is a little bit larger. Okay, so now I just hit Z for zoom, and I'm going to zoom into this real nice, beautiful L. And so here we go. Also, remember, I want to not have a fill. So I almost kind of have to see the color that I used or selected or sampled is still sort of loaded. And so if I started creating this L, it would create it with this sort of off black or gray. I don't want that right now. All I want is a black stroke and no fill, because remember, I want to be able to see the letter form properly. So I had to reset that manually, and now I can come back. I like the curvature tool, and so I'm going to be using that here. And I'm actually going to start at this location and then kind of work my way down. Okay. This is a real fun project. I like it. And it just kind of, I don't know if I was driving, maybe I was listening to Black Sabbath while I was driving. I can't remember exactly. But this project just kind of came to me in a dream, so to speak. And I thought this would be a fantastic sort of typography project for my beginning graphic design students who are just kind of learning to understand the power of, first of all, hand-drawn typography, the power of a design project. I mean, design does not always need anything more than just beautifully laid out words. I mean, there's a real elegance and simplicity to this design, um, that really kind of matches the music too, and which has become so important over the years. Okay, so there's that. We really wanted to, we could start sampling the purple, but just for the sake of time, I'm gonna just start moving forward. Okay. So again, I mean, this can move pretty fast if you want it to. Eking along. Remember, when you get to these corners, you can kind of slow down and make those anchor points with the curvature tool a little bit closer together to avoid those exaggerated curves. But the curvature tool really is perfect for this idea of creating, um, I hesitate to use the word cartoony. I prefer to describe what the designer was doing as almost kind of more organic or human or expressive. Even the way, we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but the way that the words kind of fit on the 12 by 12-inch frame. So there's this real beautiful, clear figure ground relationship. We'll talk about figure ground a little bit more and further down the road, but essentially figure ground is positive and negative space within a composition. So this kind of, I don't know, maybe we can come over here. Correct that just a hair. What I did there, I don't know if you guys saw, but I used the anchor point tool to manipulate the handles that are oftentimes associated with an anchor point. And if you can delete those, and you can also drag them around to correct your curves. Pretty cool. We need the center part. So we kind of have to go through that similar process that we went through earlier. You know what? For this particular center, I'm going to use the regular pen tool. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Remember, I got to close the loop. When you close the loop, it's indicated. You guys see that little circle next to the pen icon? That means that, yes, I've made it back all the way back around to where I started the shape, and I'm closing the loop, or I'm closing the object properly. And I can actually, even without a fill, all I have to do is drag, and it may not look like it, but I just removed the center, okay? And so if I sample that purple again, which is so beautiful, so I guess I should be calling it violet. Hit Command S and save. Hit Command 0 just to kind of see your work, all at once, and then maybe just for fun. It kind of feels good to do that every once in a while, just so that you can see, how everything is coming together. It's good. I mean, it does take time, right? Okay, now let's try the C here, okay? Okay, remember, we don't want the purple. We actually just want the black stroke. Gonna make some quick adjustment. And we're still on the right layer, reality text. Just taking this line for a walk. You guys, if I weren't recording this video, I would probably be listening to Black Sabbath. One of the perks of being a designer is, you sort of get this task and you know what you're supposed to be doing, and then you can listen to anything you want, in your home studio, or maybe you're a freelancer. Maybe you're in the office with some headphones. You can listen to a podcast. Make those anchor points a little closer around that curve. Remember, I mean, it's okay if things aren't perfect. If we wanted perfect, what we would do is we would, I don't know, we'd find a prepackaged typeface to use, right? And sometimes those are good solutions as well. It depends on the vision that the designer has. Okay, let's just continue. Let's, instead of, one of my weaknesses in design is I tend to dilly-dally a lot by just simply kind of always wanting to see the work that I've done. And actually, I mean, that can slow you down. And rather, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to move through this a little bit more quickly. And then what I'll do is I'll add that purple color that I like so much. I'll add that to all of them when I'm ready. You guys might be thinking, this takes a long time. I mean, this is just, well, so what? So what? Graphic designers are paid by the hour. Okay, guys? And at some point, you do get a little faster doing things, but sometimes it's okay to take the long road so that you can get it done right. Hmm. Nice looking S, good curvature. The other thing that you should maybe be doing while you're sort of copying these letter forms, oops, just kind of make some observations. You're kind of training yourself because you're going to be creating some new letter forms for your t-shirt, right? Which can be a little bit time consuming, but remember, this chapter is form storming, okay? And so just doing it once, it's really not enough. When you repeat yourself and you're doing the same thing kind of over and over again, there's this thing that happens where you're kind of searching for the right solution. In particular, I would say that, me kind of mimicking or miming or echoing this designer's aesthetic with the original text, maybe that will help me to make my t-shirt feel a little bit more like his design, his original intent, his original design. And again, the purpose of this project is to kind of play off the success of his project. Oop, I chose the wrong pen tool. Let's start over. I just Command Z'd that, by the way. So I'll start with the curvature tool now. So, doing this maybe multiple times will possibly help us to follow his lead, follow his or her lead. It took me a while to really like Black Sabbath, actually. I think I've always, in my entire life, I've always been suspicious of things that everyone likes. I don't know, that might be a curse. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I had folks would talk about Black Sabbath and how wonderful it was, and I thought, well, I thought maybe I should be looking for something different. But the real truth is, now I understand that it's okay to sort of acknowledge, I guess, the value that people are placing in things and give it a chance. Okay, here it is again. I'm going to select both, minus front. And again, it may not look like it, but I just omitted the interior of that A. Okay. Okay, and maybe you're thinking, well, I made a B here, so I could just copy and paste that B there, but I mean it's just not going to work. All these letter forms need to be unique. And just while I'm at it, I know I've promised you guys I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to go ahead and plant the purple in there just for fun. I do like to see the result of what I'm doing as I'm sort of making progress. So hit Command S. It's coming along. It's real nice. Like, look how beautiful and clean these vector graphics are. It almost kind of looks like it's acrylic paint on canvas, right? It has this very kind of hand-drawn or hand-applied feel, even with the digital technology. That is really, in my opinion, powerful. In all my years teaching design, when I see students combining digital and analog, that's when really amazing, magical things happen, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to hit Z for zoom. I'm going to work on these two Bs, which are both very unique. Oops, I did it again. I have to get rid of the purple and focus on the black stroke. Select the curvature tool, zoom in a little bit further so I can get detailed. Also, while we're kind of zoomed in, I'm sure you guys can see the pixelation of the image, and you can see the contrast with the vector graphics that Illustrator is applying. And so that is, that's big in design. Like JPEGs are pixelated. And when you're working in Illustrator with vector graphics, you can create these very nice, clean-edged, near perfect designs. Of course, at some point you're going to have to export this design, your beautiful vector graphics, and ironically, you might have to take it back to a rasterized or JPEG'd image. But even so, you can export at 300 plus quality, 300 plus DPI quality. Whoops, use the wrong pen tool. And you'll still be happy with the results. They'll look better than what we're looking at here on the screen. Trying to move a little bit more quickly for the sake of time, but I want you guys to take your time, okay? Okay, guys. So I've wrapped up just sort of the miming of the original cover with the typography, but there's something else that I would like to do. Um, I want to there's this real beautiful sort of movement happening with this typography, and it's really important for this observation to happen, um, uh, for the next step, essentially, because we're going to be changing Black Sabbath. Well, for my particular idea, I'm going to be changing. Here's an example. If you look back at this image, oops, a good one that I would like to use is Master of Cubism, Pablo Picasso. And so Master of Cubism, so I'll have to put Cubism, replace reality with Cubism, and then I'll have to replace Black Sabbath with Pablo Picasso. So it'll say Pablo Picasso, Master of Cubism. And I'll have to sort of just improvise, to get those letter forms correct within the space, as far as the feel. But there's also this issue of like the number of letter forms or letters that occupy that particular space. So you might have to squinch text. You might have to, yeah, this is a visual problem that you'll have to work through. And I trust that you will all be able to do it and learn something from this experience. But I think very diagrammatically. So the next thing I want to show you guys, what I would do, being in these shoes, is I would want to create one, two, three, four, five kind of swaths of diagrammatic color so that I kind of know where I should be working to fit these letter forms. So it's almost sort of like, giving me some boundaries to sort of follow suit with the Black Sabbath precedent. And that's really what we're dealing with here, guys, is a real strong precedent and riffing off of it. Precedent, what is the root word of precedent? Precede. So this design or this LP cover precedes the t-shirt design that we are going to be making, but there's still some sort of a connection between these two things. For me, in the design world, precedent is a very big word, and it's also very important for process because nothing really happens in a vacuum. You know, I think I had mentioned the phrase earlier when I was chatting with you guys, collective consciousness. This Black Sabbath record, I mean, it's known. When folks see it, even if they don't know the Black Sabbath cover or music, in a sense, they just they know that they've seen it somewhere before. And that's because this design is so iconic and so well known, it's sort of entered the collective consciousness of society. I mean, I'm not even talking about here in the United States. It's a global thing. Black Sabbath is huge. Ozzy Osbourne is huge. This record is huge. So on to the diagram business. So I've created a new layer. By the way, by default, when you create a new layer, if you have this layer selected, which I did, I created a new layer and it made one directly right above. So I'm going to call this diagram. Okay. And by the way, I'm going to lock this layer. So I've locked my reality LP cover layer. So, you can kind of see the layer management that's happening here. Here's my LP cover. Here's the text that I've made, the original text. And now I have this diagram that I would like to work with. Okay. I don't want these two guys to sort of talk to each other. So that's why they're on separate layers. All right. As far as diagrams go, you can use any color you'd like. Usually just bright colors. No big deal. Okay. And I'm going to be using the curvature tool. And I'm just going to sort of follow the outline of what's happening with this text, how it's just kind of occupying this space. Because there's a real beautiful kind of movement happening. I want to mime or echo or really like pay respect to that movement. Isn't it funny how just a simple thing like this, just some purple letter forms, and then they're arranged or skewed or rendered in a particular way, and it becomes a thing, right? Create another layer because I think that there's a possibility my pen tool might interfere with this object. So I'm just going to create another layer for peace of mind temporarily. I'll show you how I'm going to do that here in a second. And by the way, I'm kind of going to improvise a little bit because see the names of the artists that I'm working with, they're probably going to be longer than just BLACK. And so that's why I kind of need to anticipate this swath of color going all the way to the left and right sides of the artboard or canvas. And there's a real nice little bit of padding that I'm trying to respect and honor as well, because that will be helpful when I'm doing my thing. So that's the first one. It's this real beautiful kind of negative space up here. You see that? That's nice. Another one. Lock that layer. And you might be thinking, why are you're covering everything up? No, I'm just simply creating a guide for how I'm going to sort of transform things and change things. But the DNA of the original precedent will still be there and still be recognizable. That's what I'm doing. This is a very simple, just diagrammatic device that I am making. This one I'm just kind of doing because, but the real truth is with my particular plan, I'm gonna leave of. So you don't have to recreate of over and over again. I'm actually going to borrow that and put them to place them on the new layers that I'll be creating soon with the different words. But remember, it's Pablo Picasso, master of cubism. So I can keep master and I can keep of. The only thing I have to change is reality and Black Sabbath up here. And then again, there's this nice padding on the bottom. I want to keep that as best I can. Interesting. Okay. And so I think I can take all of these guys. I'm going to unlock these other layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can kind of, I also want to point this out. If I select this object, it's on layer 5 and it's indicated by this little icon right here. If I select this guy, it's also on layer 5. That one's on layer 5. That one happens to be on the original diagram layer. That one is on layer 4. So anyway, I've got reality text locked. I've got the base layer locked, so I can actually just drag and select. And so even when I do that, it's showing me that I have 2 items and they're on 2 separate layers, but I can drag this blue icon here down to the diagram layer. And I'm going to do the same thing with these guys. I just want everything on one layer. And then I can hold shift and select those 2 layers. And then there's a little trash can icon down here. I can delete those layers. Now I can lock down that diagram layer and I can even place it below the text. And so you can kind of see, look at that's our roadmap to this project right there. That is our blueprint. That is the DNA. Okay. And we can even remove the text, bring it back. I mean, This is the kind of stuff that I love about Illustrator. So I'm gonna basically call it a day for this particular video, but there will be forthcoming videos to complete this project. Okay, guys? So of course, obviously, I need to hit Command S and I need to save my work. I'll see you guys on the other side with the other video.